Guys, I need to get this off my chest. This happened 3 months ago and I am still processing everything. Sorry for the long post, but this is crazy and I need to tell someone. TLDR at the bottom. So I've been married to my wife Daisy for 4 years. We met in college. She was studying hospitality management. I was doing mechanical engineering. She's always been ambitious, maybe a little too much, but I thought that was just her drive to succeed. After graduation, I got a good job as a marine mechanic in Miami working on luxury yachts and boats. The pay is solid, and I love working with my hands. Daisy struggled to find work in hotels initially, but about 2 years ago she landed what seemed like a dream job. She became a flight attendant, though she called herself a yacht stewardess. Apparently there's a difference on this insanely wealthy guy's private yacht. I am talking stupid money here. The kind where the yacht has its own helicopter pad and costs more than most people's houses. The job seemed perfect for her. She worked 2-week rotations in the Caribbean, then get 2 weeks off. The pay was incredible, like more than I made in a month for 2 weeks of work. She come home with stories about serving celebrities, tech moguls, old money families. At first, I was happy for her. She seemed to love the work, the travel, the luxury lifestyle she got to witness. But looking back now, I should have seen the red flags from the beginning. She started changing almost immediately after taking the job. Little things at first. She became obsessed with her appearance, spending hours getting ready even just to go to the grocery store. She started buying expensive clothes, saying she needed to maintain a certain image for work. When I asked how she could afford designer dresses on her salary, she get defensive and say the yacht provided wardrobe allowances. The worst part was how she started talking about our life in Miami. She come home from these trips and seem almost disgusted by our apartment, our neighborhood, our friends. She make comments like, "You wouldn't believe how the other half lives," or "There's so much more to life than this." I tried to brush it off, thinking it was just culture shock from seeing extreme wealth. Our intimate life started declining too. She come home exhausted, claiming the work was demanding. But then she spend hours on her phone, texting and giggling. When I ask who she was talking to, she say it was other crew members or that she was coordinating with her agency for future assignments. I wanted to trust her, so I did. The biggest change was in her attitude toward me. She used to be proud of my work, would brag to her friends about her handy husband, who could fix anything. But after a few months on the yacht, she started making subtle digs. Bart's job is so blue collar, she say at parties, with this little laugh that made my stomach turn. Or maybe one day we'll both be able to afford the lifestyle we deserve. I started feeling like I wasn't good enough for her anymore. Here I was, making good money, working hard, being a faithful husband, and she was treating me like some kind of embarrassment. But I loved her, so I kept trying to make it work. I even started looking into ways to expand my business, maybe start my own marine repair company, thinking that if I made more money, she'd respect me again. The trips got longer. What started as 2-week rotations became 3 weeks, then a month. She apologized, saying the clients extended their charters, that she was making too much money to turn down. I understood, but I missed my wife. When she was home, she seemed distracted, always on her phone, always talking about the yacht and the amazing places they'd been. I tried to plan romantic dates when she was home, thinking maybe we could reconnect. But she compare everything to her work experiences. The restaurant on the yacht has a Michelin star chef. She say when I take her to our favorite local place. Or, you should see the sunsets from the deck. They nothing like what you get from the beach here. 3 months ago, everything came to a head. Daisy had been on a particularly long charter, almost 6 weeks. She been texting less, calling less, always saying she was too busy with demanding guests. When she finally came home, something was different. She seemed glowing, happy in a way I hadn't seen in months, but also guilty, like she was hiding something. So after Daisy came back from that 6-week charter looking all glowy and suspicious, I knew I had to do something. The woman who left for that trip was my wife, cold and distant, but still my wife. The woman who came back was a stranger wearing my wife's face. The first thing I noticed was her phone behavior. She used to leave it lying around. Never minded if I grabbed it to check the time or weather. Now she carried it everywhere, even to the bathroom. It was always face down, always on silent. When it buzzed, which was constantly, she'd get this little smile and quickly flip it over to check. If I was nearby, she'd angle the screen away from me. One morning, about a week after she got back, I woke up early and found her on our balcony at 6 a.m., whispering into her phone and giggling like a teenager. When she saw me, she quickly said, "I'll call you back later," and hung up. I asked who she was talking to at 6 a.m., and she said it was her friend Emma, another yacht worker in a different time zone. Bullshit. I know Emma. They text. They don't giggle on phone calls at dawn. Then there were the clothes. Daisy came back from that charter with a whole new wardrobe. Designer everything. When I asked about it, she said the yacht owner's wife had left some things behind and told the crew they could keep them. Again, bullshit. These weren't random leftover clothes. They were all Daisy's exact size and style preferences. Expensive lingerie, dresses, jewelry. Thousands of dollars worth of stuff. But the worst part was how she acted in bed. Look, I am not going into details, but after 4 years of marriage, you know your partner's body, right? She had new preferences. Things she'd never been into before. When I brought it up, she got defensive and said she was exploring her sexuality and that I should be more adventurous. It felt like she was comparing me to someone else the whole time. I started doing some digging. I knew the name of the yacht management company from her pay stubs, so I called pretending to be interested in a job. The recruiter was chatty and mentioned they were looking for marine engineers for some upcoming charters. That's when I got the idea. I have 8 years of experience working on luxury yachts, all the certifications, clean background check. I applied under my maiden name, my mom's surname, and didn't mention that my wife worked for the same company. I figured if something was going on, the best way to find out was to see it myself. The process moved fast. They needed someone ASAP for a 3-week Caribbean charter on the same yacht where Daisy worked. The serendipity, I should have known from the name that it was going to be ironic as hell. The pay was incredible, almost double what I made in Miami. I told them I could start immediately. Here's where it gets complicated. I couldn't tell Daisy what I was doing without tipping her off, so I had to lie. I told her I got called for an emergency repair job on a yacht in the Bahamas, that it would take 2 to 3 weeks and pay really well. She barely looked up from her phone when I told her. Just said, "That's nice, honey," and went back to texting whoever was making her smile. The night before I left, she was on the phone again, but this time I could hear bits of the conversation from the kitchen. She was talking quietly, but I caught phrases like, "I'll be gone for 3 weeks," and "I can't wait to see you again," and "this time will be different." My blood went cold. I stood in that kitchen holding a beer, listening to my wife plan what was obviously an affair, and I felt something break inside me. I went to bed that night knowing my marriage was over. I just needed proof. The next morning, I flew to Fort Lauderdale where the yacht was docked. When I walked up the gangway with my toolbox, I was nervous as hell. The yacht was massive, like 200 feet, probably worth $50 million. The kind of thing you see in movies. The crew was getting ready for guests to arrive that afternoon. The chief engineer, Tony, showed me around and briefed me on the mechanical systems. Professional setup, everything top-notch. As he's giving me the tour, he mentions that the stewardess team is excellent, especially Daisy. She's been with us almost 2 years now, real professional, guests love her. Then he pauses and adds, though between you and me, she's been different lately. Happier, you know? Must have met someone. I almost choked. This guy was telling me, unknowingly, that my wife was obviously having an affair and it was visible to the entire crew. I played it cool and said something about how the job must be rewarding. That afternoon, the guests started arriving. Helicopter after helicopter landing on the pad. Rich people with their rich problems, but they all seemed nice enough. I was in the engine room doing system checks when Tony came down and said the primary guest had arrived and wanted to meet the new crew member. I went up to the main deck, and Tony introduced me to David Rothschild. Not the Rothschilds, but still stupid wealthy from tech investments. Tall, fit, probably my age, perfectly styled hair, expensive casual clothes. The kind of guy who looks like he stepped out of a magazine. He shook my hand and made small talk about my experience, seemed genuinely interested in the Yacht's systems. Nice guy, I thought. Then Daisy walked out from the galley. The look on her face when she saw me was pure terror. Like she'd seen a ghost. She went white, then red, then white again. For a second, nobody said anything. Then David looked between us with this confused expression and asked, "Do you two know each other?" That's when I realized David had no idea I was Daisy's husband. And from the way he was looking at her, protective, concerned, intimate, I realized he was definitely the other man. So there I am, standing on the deck of this yacht, looking at my wife who looks like she's about to pass out, and David who's asking if we know each other. The moment stretched on forever. I could see Daisy's mind racing, trying to figure out how to handle this. I made a split-second decision that I am still not sure was smart or stupid. I smiled and said, "No, I don't think they met. I just have one of those faces." Daisy's relief was visible, but I could see the panic still in her eyes. David shrugged it off and continued with the introductions. Here's the thing. I realized I had stumbled into the perfect situation. David clearly had no idea Daisy was married. She'd been lying to both of us, but in different ways. To me, she was pretending nothing was happening. To him, she was probably pretending to be single. I decided to play along and see how deep this rabbit hole went. Over the next few hours, I watched them interact. It was nauseating. The little touches when she served him drinks. The way she'd linger when bringing him towels. The secret smiles they shared when they thought no one was looking. But the worst part was seeing how she acted around him versus how she'd been treating me. With David, she was the woman I fell in love with in college. Charming, attentive, laughing at his jokes. She was trying so hard to impress him, hanging on his every word. It was like watching a performance of the person my wife used to be before she decided I wasn't good enough anymore. That evening, after dinner service, I was in the engine room doing routine maintenance when I heard footsteps. Daisy appeared at the bottom of the stairs, looking frantic. "What the fuck are you doing here, Bart?" she hissed, keeping her voice low. "Working," I said, not looking up from the fuel pump I was checking. "Same as you. This is insane. You can't be here. What if someone finds out we remarried?" That's when I looked at her. Really looked at her. She wasn't worried about our marriage or about getting caught cheating. She was worried about her affair being exposed. Why would it matter if people know we remarried, Daisy? Unless you've been telling people you not? The look on her face told me everything. She had been lying to David about being single. It's complicated, she said, which is what people say when they lying and they know it. Complicated how? Either you remarried or you not. Either you fucking that guy or you not. She went pale. How dare you? How dare I what? How dare I figure out that my wife is screwing another man? How dare I get a job to support us while you playing house with some rich guy? You don't understand, she said, and I could see tears forming. But they weren't tears of guilt or remorse. They were tears of frustration that she got caught. "Then explain it to me. Explain how my wife of 4 years is sneaking around on a yacht with a guy who doesn't even know she's married. She was quiet for a long moment, and I thought maybe, just maybe, she was going to come clean and we could work through this. Instead, she said the words that killed any remaining love I had for her. David can give me things you never could. A life you could never provide. I am not going to apologize for wanting more than what we have. Not, I made a mistake. Not, I am sorry. She was justifying it. She was telling me that cheating was acceptable because I wasn't rich enough for her standards. So divorce me, I said. If I am such a disappointment, divorce me and be with him. It's not that simple. David doesn't want anything serious. This is just fun for him. I am not going to blow up my marriage for something that might not last. And there it was. She wanted to keep me as her backup plan while she played with her rich boyfriend. She wanted her stable, reliable husband at home while she lived out her fantasy on the yacht. Unbelievable, I said. So I am good enough to be married to, but not good enough to respect. I am good enough to pay half the bills, but not good enough to compete with some tech millionaire. That's exactly what it is. You want your cake and to eat it too. She wiped her eyes and suddenly her expression hardened. Fine. You want to know the truth? Yes, I am having an affair. Yes, David is everything you not. He is successful, sophisticated, worldly. He treats me like a queen, not like some mechanic's wife from Miami. And yes, I lied to him about being married because what we have is special and I didn't want to complicate it. What you have is special. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. More special than anything you and I ever had. When I am with David, I feel alive. When I am with you, I feel settled. And I am tired of settling. I stood up and faced her. Then you made your choice. But you don't get to have both. You don't get to keep me around as your safety net. What are you going to do? She asked, and for the first time, she looked scared. I am going to work my shift. And then I am going to make some decisions about my future. She started to say something else, but I held up my hand. We done talking, Daisy. Go back to your boyfriend. Enjoy your special relationship. She left, and I sat there in the engine room, surrounded by the hum of machinery, and felt something I hadn't felt in months, relief. The uncertainty was over. I knew exactly who my wife was now. But the night wasn't over. Around midnight, I was doing a final systems check when I heard voices on the deck above. Curious, I went topside for some air and saw David and Daisy at the bow of the yacht, silhouetted against the Caribbean stars. They were kissing, and it was passionate in a way that made my stomach turn. But then I heard David say something that changed everything. I can't keep doing this, Daisy. I am falling for you, and it's getting complicated. I think I am ready for something real. My wife, my lying, cheating wife, pulled back and said, I want that too, David. More than anything. Then there's something I need to tell you, he said. I've been married before. Divorced. It nearly destroyed me, and I swore I'd never get involved with someone who wasn't free to be with me completely. You told me you single, but sometimes I feel like you holding something back. This was it. This was her chance to come clean, to be honest with at least one of us. Instead, she looked him in the eyes and said, there's nothing holding me back, David. I am completely free to be with you. That's when I realized my wife wasn't just a cheater. She was a pathological liar who would say anything to get what she wanted. And that's when I decided to burn it all down. After watching my wife lie straight to David's face about being single, I went back to my cabin and couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what she said. That David was everything I wasn't, that what they had was special. But the guy had just told her he'd been destroyed by divorce and would never get involved with someone who wasn't free to be with him completely. Daisy was setting this man up for the same kind of betrayal she was putting me through. Whatever David's flaws were, being rich isn't one of them. Apparently, he seemed like a decent guy who deserved to know the truth. So I hatched a plan. A beautifully petty, completely justified plan. The next morning, I got up early and started my routine maintenance checks. Around 8 a.m., David came up on deck for his morning coffee. Apparently he was an early riser like me. Perfect. Morning, Mr. Rothschild, I said, wiping my hands on my coveralls. Beautiful day for it. Please, call me David. And it really is. I love these early morning moments before everyone else wakes up. He sipped his coffee and looked out at the Caribbean. You know, I've been thinking about what you said yesterday about yacht systems. I am actually considering buying my own vessel. Mind if I pick your brain about maintenance requirements? This was too perfect. Of course. Actually, there's something I wanted to talk to you about anyway. Personal matter. Oh? He looked curious, not suspicious. Yeah, it's about relationships. I am going through some stuff with my wife and could use perspective from someone who's been there. His expression shifted to sympathy. Divorced guy talking to married guy? I am happy to listen. But fair warning, I might not be the best advisor on making marriages work. Actually, that's exactly why I want to talk to you. See, my wife has been acting strange lately. Distant, secretive, spending money we don't have on clothes and things. Coming home from work trips with this glow, you know? Like she's got a secret. David nodded, clearly relating. That's tough, man. Trust issues can destroy a relationship. The thing is, I think she's having an affair. With someone she works with. Someone with money who can give her things I can. Now David looked uncomfortable. That's really hard. Have you talked to her about it? I tried. She basically told me this other guy is everything I am not. Successful, sophisticated, worldly. Said he treats her like a queen. I paused and looked David right in the eyes. Said what they have is more special than anything she and I ever had. The coffee cup in David's hand stopped halfway to his mouth. I could see the wheels turning in his head. She also told me something interesting. She said this guy doesn't want anything serious, that it's just fun for him. But she's willing to risk her marriage for it because being with him makes her feel alive. David set his coffee down. His face had gone pale. What's your wife's name? Daisy. Daisy Miller. She works as a stewardess on luxury yachts. Real professional. Guests love her. You might know the type. The look on David's face was everything I hoped for and more. Horror, realization, betrayal, anger, it all cycled through in about 5 seconds. Jesus Christ, he whispered. You, Daisy's husband. Bingo. She told me she was single. She said she'd never been married. She told me you were just a fling who didn't want anything serious. Looks like she's been lying to both of us. David sat down heavily in one of the deck chairs. How long have you known? About the affair? Suspected for months. Confirmed it 3 days ago. About you specifically? Since I got on this yacht and saw the way you two look at each other. Why are you telling me this? Why not just, I don't know, confront her? Divorce her? Oh, I am going to divorce her. But you said something last night that stuck with me. You said you'd been destroyed by divorce and would never get involved with someone who wasn't free to be with you completely. David's head snapped up. You heard that? I hear a lot of things on this yacht. Voices carry over water. I sat down across from him. Look, David, I don't know you well, but you seem like a decent guy. You deserve to know that the woman you falling for is married, has been lying to you for months, and is using both of us for what she can get. This is insane. I can't believe. I mean, she seemed so genuine. We talked about everything. She told me about her childhood, her dreams, her fears about settling for mediocrity. Yeah, that last part was probably about me. David put his head in his hands. I am so sorry, man. I had no idea. I would never, if I'd known she was married. I believe you, but here's the thing. Now you do know. So what are you going to do about it? He looked up at me. What do you mean? I mean, are you going to keep letting her play us both? Or are you going to help me show her what happens when you build a life on lies? That's when I told him my plan. We were 3 days into a 2-week charter. Plenty of time to let Daisy dig her hole deeper. I suggested we both play along, act normal, and let her think she was getting away with it. But we coordinate to gather evidence, photos, recordings, witnesses. Not to hurt David, but to make sure that when this all came out, Daisy couldn't spin it or manipulate her way out of consequences. I don't want to destroy her, I told David. But I want her to understand that actions have consequences. She's been treating both of us like we're disposable. David was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, "You know what the worst part is? I was going to ask her to come to Aspen with me next month. Meet my family. I was thinking about a future. And she would have said yes, without mentioning the husband back in Miami. Probably." He stood up and paced to the railing. "This is so fucked up. I feel like an idiot." "You're not an idiot. She's good at this. She had me fooled for months. What's she like? I mean, what was she like before?" I thought about it. Ambitious. Always wanted more than what we had, but I thought that was normal. Everyone wants to improve their situation, right? But somewhere along the way, wanting more became nothing is ever enough. And nothing is ever enough became my husband isn't enough. She talks about you know. About her life in Miami. This surprised me. What does she say? That it's boring. Suburban. That she feels trapped by ordinary life. He paused. She never mentioned being married, but she talked about feeling obligated to someone who didn't understand her dreams. Obligated. Nice. I am sorry, man. I didn't know that someone was her husband. It's not your fault. She made her choices. We agreed to meet again the next morning to coordinate our plan. For the rest of the day, I watched Daisy work, knowing what I now knew. She was professional with the other guests, charming and attentive. But with David, she was different. More intimate, more real. The irony was that the version of herself she showed him was probably the most authentic she'd been in months. Except for the massive lie about being single. That evening, I was doing paperwork in the engine room when she came down again. "We need to talk," she said. "I thought we covered everything last night. David's been acting weird today. Distant. Did you say something to him?" I looked up from my maintenance log. "Like what?" "I don't know. Something to make him suspicious." "Daisy, I've been in the engine room or working on systems all day. When would I have had time to talk to your boyfriend?" She studied my face, looking for tells. "If you fuck this up for me, Bart, I swear to God." "You, what? Divorce me? Please do. This isn't a game. You, rewrite. It's not a game. It's our marriage. And you've been treating it like it's disposable." She left without another word, but I could see the worry in her eyes. Her perfect little fantasy was starting to crack, and she knew it. The next morning, David and I met again. He looked like he hadn't slept. "I keep thinking about all the conversations we had," he said. "Trying to figure out what was real and what was manipulation. Probably some of both. She's really good at making you feel like you're the only person in the world who understands her." "Yeah, she is." We spent the next hour planning exactly how we were going to reveal the truth. It had to be public enough that she couldn't deny it or spin it, but private enough that we weren't humiliating other guests who had nothing to do with this mess. By the end of our conversation, David had transformed from the betrayed other man into my co-conspirator. We were going to take down my cheating wife together, and it was going to be spectacular. So David and I planned the perfect reveal. We decided to do it at the farewell dinner on the last night of the charter. All the guests, all the crew, everyone together in the main dining room. During dinner, David stood up to make a toast. I want to thank the incredible crew of the Serendipity for making this trip unforgettable. Especially our head stewardess, Daisy, who has been truly special. Daisy beamed, thinking this was going somewhere romantic. David continued. In fact, Daisy has been so wonderful that I'd like her husband to hear this too. Bart, would you join us? The room went dead silent. Daisy's face went from glowing to ghost white in seconds. I walked over and put my arm around my wife's shoulders. Thanks, David. It's always nice to hear good things about my wife of 4 years. The other guests started murmuring. The crew looked confused. Daisy looked like she was going to faint. Husband? One of the guests asked. Oh yes, David said with a smile. Daisy and Bart have been married for 4 years. Isn't that right, Daisy? She couldn't speak. Just stood there opening and closing her mouth like a fish. Actually, David continued, Daisy told me she was single. We've been having an affair for months. But apparently, she's been lying to both of us. That's when Daisy found her voice. She started screaming at both of us, calling us every name in the book, saying we planned this to humiliate her. She was right, of course. The yacht manager immediately fired her. The guests were horrified. The other crew members started sharing stories about how they suspected something was going on. But here's the best part. David pulled me aside afterward and said, I know this is weird, but I think we actually be good friends under different circumstances. He was right. We exchanged numbers and still grab beers when he's in Miami. Daisy, she tried to salvage things, begging me not to divorce her, promising she'd change. But I already filed the papers. The divorce was finalized 2 months ago. She's working at a hotel in Orlando now. No more yacht life, no more rich boyfriends, no more designer clothes. Just reality. Meanwhile, David helped me start my own marine repair business. Turns out having wealthy friends who own yachts is pretty good for business. And me? I am dating a teacher named Sarah who thinks my job is cool and doesn't care that I am not a millionaire. Sometimes the best revenge is just living well.